yesterday, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, did an interview with the political editor of The Sun, that's Harry Cole, and in which he said Britain will quit the European Court if that's what it takes to stop the small boats. He's threatened to end the UK's 71-year tie to the European Convention of Human Rights, which, of course, is tied up with the court. And he said, I believe that border security and controlling illegal migration is more important than our membership of any foreign court. And he basically said that the UK will quit the Euro courts to stop boats if we have to. So basically, in the event of the Rwanda bill not going through, in the event that there's more and more legal challenges, at the next election, whenever it is, and he wouldn't confirm when it is, October, November is the most expected date now, he said that, to paraphrase, we will go to the public with a manifesto. Well, we could go to the public. There's a lot of provisos in there. We could go to the public with a manifesto saying we will quit the European Court if we are elected. Now, do you believe that he wants to do that? Do you believe that he would do that? Do you believe it's an easy thing to promise when you must know, if you're Rishi Sunak, the odds are you will never be elected in the next general election?
Do you know what? I'd say no, and actually no, even to the last point. And that's because, actually, I don't think that they would even have the gumption to promise it knowing that they wouldn't do it, because I don't think they're confident enough to put to the British people, we will leave the ECHR, and then withstand the barrage from Labour, which would be they're trying to take away your human rights.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the confidence or the alternative mechanism to present to the British public.
But it's not just a barrage from Labour. If it were all the other political parties, perhaps not Reform UK, they would support that. But it would be from half of the Tory Party.
Yeah.
The bleeding hearters who claim they're the moderates, who are busily, happily allowing, hundreds of thousands of people to be in this country who don't have any right to be
People
here.
seem to believe that until the end of the Second World War, there were no human rights in Europe or anywhere in the United Kingdom, and that if you get rid of or try to amend or update this body, there will be no human rights again. And I would sympathise with
the same as the people who said if we left the EU, suddenly
there'd be no sky.
There'd be no sky. No, but the idea that we had no human rights, we had rights, Anti-Sex Discrimination Act and things like that long before the EU.
I mean, the great irony is that actually England, rather than Britain in general, England has led the way in terms of actually putting in place what would be considered human rights laws throughout history. We tend to lead the way on this sort of thing. But look, honestly, is it going to happen? No. They can talk tough on this, and I would sympathise with this, which is, do you trust the Tories, forget Labour, do you trust the Tories to actually come up with something better than the ECHR? Look at what they've done with Brexit. They've taken all of the wonderful opportunities and they've done absolutely nothing with it. They've managed to turn people against it. They've managed to make it unpopular. They've managed to take very little advantage of anything. What do we think they'd do with the ECHR? I suspect something similar. I don't trust this current iteration of the Tory Party to get it right.
Well, look, this ties in with another topic I want to talk about, and this is this latest YouGov poll. Just the latest in a long line of absolutely dire polls for the Conservative Party. And this poll suggests a absolute wipeout for the Tories. The discussions seem to be now about how bad is it going to be, rather than whether or not the Tory Party will lose. Again, I've been following all this stuff for a lot of years now. I'm all long in the tooth. I always say never, events, dear boy, events, as famously said in the 70s. But this latest poll, which is a massive poll, it's a mega poll, 18,000 people, so across many different constituencies, and it's forecasting Labour will win 403 seats. That's a gain of 201, a majority of 154 over the Tories, crashing to just 155 seats. So they would lose 210. They'd lose more than half of their MPs. This would be a worse defeat for the Conservatives than John Major had in 1997, when Labour, under Tony Blair, left them with just 165 MPs. And of course, when we see, the absolute devastation that we saw under Jeremy Corbyn for the Labour Party in 2019, this is on a different scale from that. Now, do you think that this is likely to happen? Do you think that vote for Labour is going to be that strong? People are so fed up. Or do you think actually the Labour vote is much softer than people think? And what a lot of Tories seem to be counting on is that on the day, people will go, the things I'm angry with the Tories about are things that I think that Labour will do worse.
No, because I don't think people will come out to vote for them. I don't think they'll get to the
just
voting
stay at
booth in the
home.
first place. I think the key thing, you're right, the vote for Labour, the support for Labour is soft. It's not enthusiastic. But the Tory party right now are sitting there waiting for the inevitable defeat to come. They're not putting forward, I would expect a government in this position to be rather aggressive, a lot more bullish, to be putting forward policies that might, in fact, on the face of it, seem to be rather unpopular, but that they turn around to the public and say, look, you might not like it. This is the situation we're in. This is what you need. They're going to lie to you, Labour. Let's hear what their policies are. Things like energy, things like housing, you'd expect them to be going, right, well, we're going to lose on current trajectory anyway. So let's actually put forward in place some policies.
Okay, that's all very well, but that lack
Sure.
of consistency, because any member of the public can go, well, hold on a minute. You're basically saying we need to have a policy to basically, countermand exactly the policies that you have been perpetrating for the last 14 years. So you've got it all wrong. I mean, again, I'd love Rishi Sunak to turn around and say net zero is insane, it's unachievable, what on earth we were thinking. You're the people who sodding signed up to it.
But this is why, ultimately, if they were going to do that, they should then set the deadline for the general election and say January, say we're going to do this, this and this by then. And if we haven't done this by then, I know it's a very short amount of time, then you don't vote for us. But because people are not going to vote for them anyway. On the subject of Labour and their support being very soft, partly it's very soft because they're not being very concrete about many things at all. They're just going to be more of the same.
They've got no
Big
money
state,
to do anything.
No reform, anything like that. It's going to be more of the same. They know that that's going to be very unpopular.
It's going to be culture wars. It's what it's going to be, because the only thing they're going to have left is culture wars.
But they're also worried about Gaza, which is, the fact of the matter is, as things currently stand, they'll win a stonking great majority. But with that confidence that they will, you increase the potential that a lot of would-be Labour voters might go, do you know what, I'm not going to vote Labour because they're going to win anyway. I'm going to vote for the George Galloway-style candidate who is making this a single issue thing, or for the Green Party candidate or in certain seats. So there is a chance there that actually a lot of their support is eaten away almost unexpectedly because people just assume, oh, they're going to win anyway, I might as well give a protest vote to this smaller single-issue party. I think they're quite worried about that because there are a lot of seats in the UK where these sorts of things are quite important issues, especially Gaza, actually. And, we've seen how sort of reticent Keir Starmer was to sort of take a firm stance one way or the other. Even saying that they support Israel, he wasn't incredibly, massively vociferous about this. So I think that there is real concern there. The question about Reform UK, it's a great unknown, because they take votes from the Tories predominantly. They could take votes from Labour in those sort of former Red Wall seats, but we don't actually know what they're going to be come the next. Will Nigel Farage be leading the party? Will it be Richard Tice? What kind of candidates are they going to be putting forward? Will they be people you know? Will they be unknowns? It's very difficult to gauge. What I would say is at this point, they're doing quite well, given their base. But I think with the Tories doing as badly as they are and with Labour's vote as soft as it is, I think quite sharpish at the next couple of by-elections, the Blackpool by-election, for example, you need to see them actually overtaking the Tories in some of these places. If they're really doing as well as they say, and the Tories are doing as bad as everybody believes, they need to take second place in one or two of these places. Otherwise, people probably won't vote for them in the next election because they'll say it's just another insurgency.
Can I also ask you about another big factor in the election? Because we know all the different issues, and again, Gaza's going to come in. But for most people, it's going to be the economy. The economy's stupid, as the Clinton campaign always said. And also, of course, there are issues like immigration. Again, even if you're in an area that's not affected by it, people are waking up to this and saying this is an issue, an impact on housing, an impact on the cost of living, of course, but also the NHS. Extraordinary new statistics from the Office for National Statistics suggesting that the 7.5 million people that we've got on the waiting list currently actually is missing 2 million people who actually are on waiting lists. They just don't count anymore because basically you've already had an appointment. And you're just waiting for the next appointment. But you're in the system, so we counted you as having been seen. When we do find it, I found it absolutely extraordinary, especially when we see the King and the Princess of Wales both being treated for cancer. And I wish them the best in the world and every recovery. But they will be getting the best healthcare money can buy. That is not what most people in this country get, unfortunately. I want everyone to get the best healthcare money can buy. But it is the case that it is now routine that more than half of people, this is official stats, more than half of people, they go to the doctor, they get a referral, an urgent referral, suspected cancer, to see a consultant. That's before you even get any tests or anything. They wait more than 2 months. Now, that is obscene in a first world country. It is obscene in a third world country. But that is the matter between life and death for an awful lot of people. So these 2 million people will include people who are, they're on the list. They've already had the first appointment, but they haven't actually had any treatment or follow-on treatment to cure them. This is terrifying.
It is. And again, I think the government should be honest with people as to why this is.
And it's not down to the doctor's strikes.
You
I'm
and I
afraid.
had conversations throughout the pandemic saying that there would be a price to pay for the NHS, and the price is being paid. And it's not just about the lockdowns and everything, although that has played, excuse me, a very large part in that. The government has to be honest and say, look, we haven't necessarily planned long-term. Us and previous governments have not necessarily planned. We didn't plan properly for a pandemic, or we didn't
plan properly for anything.
Yeah, but ultimately what will alleviate this crisis is training more people from a younger age, increasing capacity. That takes time.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things where they go, look, we did this during COVID because this was what we thought was the best thing. This is what a lot of people want. Let's not get away from this. For some reason,
don't start me on it. Don't start me on it.
Popular.
Closing down the NHS
Yep.
to people in their 30s with cancer to make sure that someone who's 86
Yep.
can live an extra 6 months. Brilliant
But what
decision.
they now need to do is say, this will be sorted, but it will take time. And it will mean training more people, it will mean more places, and they will have to also say this cannot be alleviated by importing people from third world healthcare systems that we haven't trained and also aren't trained to the standards necessarily that we demand. And we will also need to find a way of retaining doctors and nurses who are already here and have been
a
trained.
lot of that is going to be paying people, but this is the thing I don't understand. We are piling money into the NHS. I mean, huge sums of money. People say, what about that 350 million quid a week the NHS was supposed to get extra? They've had that and more. And post-COVID, they've had that and more. And yet that money doesn't seem to be going anywhere. We just seem to have so many bureaucrats. I would have thought that some sort of social insurance system, like most of Europe has, we're told that that actually has increased bureaucratic costs. Well, how can it have more bureaucratic costs than our current system, where we don't have enough beds, doctors and nurses, but we spend as much as every other country with similar better healthcare outcomes on their NHS.
And similar demographic. They have similar demographic issues, and countries like Italy and Spain, they actually have much worse demographic issues. They still perform a lot better than we do. It's one area where I'm interested to see whether the Labour Party will be able to make inroads that the Tories haven't.
Where streeting
has been very good on this. Talking about there's no money and there needs to be reform. When you've got the Labour Party saying that, that's when you know it's really in trouble.
Such as the NHS has been privatised, bearing in mind GPs have always had private contracts, such as their private healthcare has been used as part of the NHS, most of that happened under Tony Blair.
Yes.
Of course, it did not under the Tories.